God's brought me from. Some of you know my testimony, some of you don't. And but I was a pastor's child when I was growing up. My dad is actually a Pentecostal preacher. He's a Church of God preacher. Well, he was. When I was 4 years old, my dad started taking me to my uncle's house. And at 4, my uncle started molesting me. I started getting raped like every single time my dad would take me over there. And I was scared to say anything because the very first time my uncle raped me, he literally put a gun to the back of my head at 4 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. And he said, if you tell anybody, I'll kill your family. He basically just, we went into greater detail than that. But, so from 4 till I was almost 10 years old, my uncle, he raped me. And, you know, I started having, at the age of, I think I was 10 or 11, I started having panic attacks. And they didn't know what was causing it. They were just like, oh my goodness, you know, he's too young for this stuff to be happening to him. And so, you know, time went on. Things started happening in my life. You know, I thought I was over everything, and I wasn't. When I was in high school, I stood up and said, you know, I'm going to be a virgin, and you know, all this stuff. And, you know, most of the time when somebody says that, it's not going to happen. But I thought, you know, I could do that. And you know, people started getting on me about it. Man, they were jumping on my case. You know, this cat is a virgin, you know. And so one night, a girl who wasn't even my girlfriend, just to prove to everybody that I wasn't, because of what my uncle did to me. I never had a homosexual thought in my life. And just to prove to everybody, though, that I wasn't because of what my uncle did to me, I lost my virginity to a girl. The first time I lost my virginity, I got her pregnant. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. See, I didn't know she was pregnant until after I had already won a worldwide singing competition. And it was kind of bad because I walked in, we got off the bus on the way back from the competition, and her brother walked up to me and said, my sister's pregnant, what are you going to do now? And that took our cheering and everything to just hit the ground. You know, I thought I could get away with it because I was Corey Lane. I was the guy that, you know, people wanted their kids to be like. So after that, I started using drugs real heavy. And man, goodness, I remember first thing I ever did was they handed me a Xanax. The doctor said, here you go, you can take these and you won't have panic attacks anymore. And I was like, man, something that's going to help me. I remember I took one, and it was all she wrote from then on out. By 20, I was already up to about 30 Xanaxes a day. You know, I was taking Oxycontins, Roxy. I was doing all of it. I got signed a recording contract I was 21, I'm about to be 27. It was huge. I mean, the first contract, I've signed 2 contracts. In the first contract, they handed me a check for $75,000. The second contract, they handed me a check for $386,000. And so I had money. I'm telling you what, I was living the life. I was buying all the drugs I needed. I was buying cars. I had a place that was just nice. And I was not happy whatsoever. Man, the things that I did, I hurt so many people during that time. I've got friends former friends that won't talk to me anymore because they said that when I was high, I would call them and cuss them out and tell them how much better I was than they are. And because I had money for a little while. I didn't know I had to pay the record companies back every single bit of the money that they gave me up front. And so I paid them back, and didn't make hardly a dime. I went from, I had made, I'd say, close to probably about 600,000 or 700,000 in a 2-year time, and didn't have any of it to show, not a penny. And we averaged out about in 2 years how much I had spent on drugs, and we were guessing around $30-something thousand on drugs. I put $32,000 on my body, and tattoos, and I just was dumb. And I remember my dad walking in one night and he said, "Corey, I don't want to come in here and find you dead," because they would walk in and I would be sitting on a couch and I'd be halfway down the ground. I would have a cigarette in my hand, a dip in my mouth at the same time, and the cigarette would be burning the carpet where I was sitting. And my dad would be like, "Man, I'm going to walk in here and find you dead. And if I find you dead, then what do you think that's going to do to me? You're my firstborn. I'm the oldest of 8 kids." And my brothers and sisters were seeing me do this. And thank God my brothers and sisters only one of them did drugs. And, I started just going out of control. And one night I got married to this girl that God knows I should not have been married to. And I regret it, but everything happens for a reason. And I married this girl, and we were married for a little over a year. For about 7 months of that year, she was having an affair. And I had no clue. I thought that, I was it. I thought that was my Eve, I didn't know that term back then, that, you could be somebody's Adam and they could be your Eve. But we ended up divorcing. And when we divorced, I went to my mother's house one night. And I grabbed about 50 Xanaxes. And I said, "You know what? I'm done. I don't want this anymore. I would rather die than to be here." And I took all 50 of those Xanaxes, and I put them in my mouth, and I chewed them up, and I swallowed them. And I remember, like it was yesterday, when I did that, I literally died. I was dead. I heard hell, and I smelled hell. And when I say that the most putrid smell you could ever smell, multiply that by 1,000. And you'll never be able to grasp the smell that I smelled that night. And the sounds that I heard. When you hear these movies of people screaming and everything, like all that, I've seen movies about hell where people were screaming and stuff. It can't come close to what I heard that night. And I was just in a dark place. I didn't see fire. I didn't see all that. I was just in a dark place. When they brought me back, I said that week, "I'll never do drugs again." I said, "I'll never touch another one." And the next week, I was throwing 30 a day down again.